Welcome to the CyberBabble Podcast. My name is Caleb.
My name is Zach.
I want to start off talking about something that happened to me at work. And today was my last day at work, which was awesome. And I was super, super excited to get off of it because, I don't know. I mean, at first it was fine and I was working with Dad and stuff was going good and stuff. But eventually...
But the factor of people putting, like, bug...
Yeah, well, that's
bug poison.
I forgot I told you that. I was going to go ahead and tell you that, but at some point, I was fighting with my coworkers like all the time. Like we would get to where we were just yelling at each other, like in a car, just yelling at each other, and that was
Wait, the car?
Yeah, we were in a truck. We had like a one truck that we all worked out of, and we would all get in there and get doing stuff and then just be yelling at each other. One of the guys, Ben, he was really passive. Like he wasn't part of the arguments and he never said anything about me, at least not to my face or anything like that. But Evan and Josh, they were pretty much just like the high school bullies, that puts your head in the trash can kind of thing. Experience I never had as a homeschooler, except for when my sister would like pinch me. But yeah, eventually
He was voted the prom king by default.
I'm always prom king every single year. Graduated, they remember me as prom king.
You see, this is where his homeschooling became an issue. He thinks a prom is every year for all semesters.
Prom is every day. But he, 1 week before it was our last day, like it would be last Friday, so technically it's Saturday now. It's past midnight. We always record these like past midnight. But
don't know how that always ends up working out.
I'm trying not to get my laugh wind into the mic. But he took some poison, like bug poison, and sprayed it on my wheels. Like we were detailing cars and stuff, and it got to the end of the day, and so I pulled my I drive a 2014 Camaro, and I pulled that into the garage, and I was cleaning out and stuff, and there was contractors in there, and there's one guy was really cool. His name was Jesse, and he was talking to me about my car and stuff, and then Josh and Evan get in, and they're just being bozos, and Josh comes over and just starts spraying the bottom part of my car, and the wheels just starts spraying them down with poison, like, and giggling, idiot, and I started yelling at him, and he just
because that really is like a health and safety issue at that point.
He's putting poison on my wheels, and my wheels were like I had painted them, like recently and stuff, and so they started like staining up, but pretty quickly I started washing them off, and I had to get down there and scrub them and stuff. And then the contractor that was in there went and told the lady at the front desk, and they told them not to come back for the last week. And so I was like, score one for me. And the contractor guy, he was cool, so appreciate that. But
and you're really lucky that ended up happening, because like most of the time, especially in a work environment, your supervisors are really just like some kind of a mythical unicorn that every once in a while shows up exactly when you're not doing what you need to be doing. So the fact that he was there to catch somebody like doing some seriously aggressive hazing and took your side on it, that you were actually really lucky with that.
Yeah, for sure.
Although I don't know what other side it was possible to take. If you came over and see somebody spraying
poison
other
on
people's stuff with
wheels.
poison, and giggling like a maniac.
Like a big fat child.
Is he fat?
No. I mean, he was not really. I mean, no. But the contractor guy, he'd been there for a couple of years and stuff, and so he went and told the lady inside, and she was like, he won't be back. And I was like, sweet.
Nice.
So it's cool to have those people that stick up for the little guy,
for the
like me.
The little guy. Yeah.
So my facial hair situation right here, it's like homeless stubble. If I had to describe it to listeners, it's homeless stubble. Like the guy on the sidewalk that can't shave.
It's not quite homeless man stubble.
I'm trying to keep it trimmed.
Homeless man stubble is like it's got a little bit of length. There's like that one
and there's dirty,
on the one
like, bits
side
in it, and there's
of
like,
your chin
there's
that's like sticking out
there's
2.5
like hot
inches.
dog in it. And...
Right now, it's just like you got a little bit of grain going on.
Yeah.
And it just hasn't quite, like your mustache hasn't grown into the rest of your beard.
It's just like half inch, and then like, you know, where the mustache meets like the cheek, that like doesn't fill in.
It just doesn't grow hair.
Yeah, there's nothing there.
Yeah.
So I have to grow my mustache long enough to cover it up. So it'll be like
it's a chin strap and a handlebar mustache,
exactly.
And that is his beard.
I will be handlebarring just to cover up the rest of it.
Just to cover the fact that it's not a single unit.
I'm gonna try to go 2 months without shaving and see how it looks. Longest I've ever gone is like, it's probably like 30 days. Like that's probably the longest I've gone, and it didn't look good. Yeah. So so I'm gonna see.
You got to see what real homeless man stubble looked like when you went 30 days. You were like, this is not good.
I'm going to try to keep it trimmed and clean looking and see if I can get to 2 months and it look like all right. That's my goal, is for it to look all right. But it doesn't thicken as much as I want it to. I'm 19 years old, and so I want it to be like a thick beard. Zach has too much Indian in him to be able to grow a thick beard.
Yeah, my older brother oh gosh, dude. His hair migrated.
He could be Duck Dynasty. If he wanted to, he could grow it out Duck Dynasty.
Stacy,
he's halfway there.
I actually talked to him about this because of the fact that like I may as well be a dolphin. I just don't grow hair like on anywhere except my head. It's like it just doesn't happen. But I talked to my uncle Stacy, not his uncle. We're not related. But he said that like he didn't actually start growing facial hair until he was like 24.
That's not good news.
Like,
I don't want to hear that.
Straight up, like
you don't want to hear that.
I don't want to hear it at all. But my uncle Stacy, he didn't start growing facial hair until he turned like 24, and then by the point he's where he is now, which is he's got 2 daughters, and they're both in like middle school now. They're middle school age and everything, so he's in his 40s or thereabouts. I haven't asked him what his actual age is.
Probably shouldn't.
But you wouldn't be able to tell if you don't ask, because all of his head hair is gone. And it's just migrated into a lumberjack beard that's permanently there.
You could totally describe it as a lumberjack beard. Like that pretty much fits it.
Yeah, exactly.
He's just bald on top, but he's also like buff and hilarious, and like
I mean, like he's like what, 6'1", 6'2"?
I think he's taller than me. He's at least 6'2".
Yeah, and he works out every day.
Yeah.
Where he works out a...
so he works out 365 times more than I do.
Yes. He has the same job as I have. Just his focus is on
What's
sheet
your title?
metal.
You're a G...
It's WG8 is... For those of you who want to look at my salary, you can go to the federal wage scale and see how much I make an hour. But, and I mean, that's soon to come.
Public knowledge.
Yeah, that's a publicly known scale, but he's actually higher up on the totem pole than I am on that.
What is
I honestly don't know where he is on the WG scale.
Yeah,
I just know that he is still within the range of WG.
Is it like a number? Like is like 9 WG9? Is that like higher than? Well, is it like that?
The scale, it's weird because it doesn't go by one number increments. It's like you have a WG1 through WG5. Is like super, super low ranking on the totem pole for the federal pay scale. Okay. And then from 5...
1 through 5 probably are not necessarily different. They're just in a different league.
Well, no. Like, the way that the federal pay scale works is you're either WG, which is work grade, your GS, which is general schedule, or your NM, I think it is. And honestly, I don't know what that one stands for, what that letter guide stands for. But that's like the real high up, like manager people and engineers and scientists. Like I got a second cousin who's about to be going over into the NM side.
Is that where Ryan wants to get? Is that what he's going for? Is to end up in the NM?
He's been saying that he's focused on GS, but I'm sure he eventually wants to be in NM.
Where is Vince? Is Vince GS?
He's the one who is trying to end in NM right now. He's getting his master's degree.
Oh, so wow.
He's
Vince is impressive. He's got...
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
The stuff that me and Ryan are going to school for, or are about to be going to school for, is the stuff that he studied to get his bachelor's. And he's studying again to get his master's.
Yeah.
So he's going to be changing over from a title of being a programmer or a coder to being an engineer. And I talked to him about it. He didn't even realize that it was connected with being the title engineer. Mm-hmm. He just knew that getting into this new thing would give him a couple more job opportunities and things, and he would get way better on his pay because he would be getting paid the equivalent of like a high level manager, upper management person. But he would only have to be responsible for himself as an engineer. And he's like, that's my perfect situation.
For sure. That's anyone's perfect situation.
Oh, yeah.
Work for yourself, make big dollar.
Yes, exactly.
Make chunk monies.
Yeah, but as far as like the pay scale thing, it's really weird how they do the numbers, because you can be WG 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, and then they don't have a WG 6 or 7. You just go straight up to 8.
That is strange.
And then from there, it jumps up to 10.
Okay.
Like, you don't have an 11, and you don't have a 6 or 7. And then from there, I think it's like 2 increments of 2 going up. But I know that there's a WG 15 too. So it's really weird how they set it up.
Is that one
I really
higher
don't know
up, or is it just different?
The higher the number is within each of your scales, the better your pay and the more your stuff. Like, if you've been there... So, like, the job position that I have, because of the fact that it's a specialized thing, and, like, less than 1% of the U.S. has an A and P, they start out at a WG8, which it's decent pay. You can live comfortably with it and everything.
It's pretty fair.
With time, as you get older working within it, they kind of go, like, 6 months in or 90 days in, whatever, you jump up in pay scale. It's kind of seniority rule sort of deal.
And Ryan's been there just over 8 months, right? Yeah. I'm pretty sure.
I think he's close to 9 now.
Yeah, closing in on 9 months, and he's been bumped up like a pretty fair amount.
Well, he got bumped up once, and if he stays, probably. I think he says,
is it 1 year? Like your 1 year after
I really want to say the first one comes at 6 months, and then it's 1 year after that. So if he stays, which he plans to for another 8 months, he'll jump up again. But like my uncle, he's capped out within his stuff because he's been there. Yeah, Stacy, he's been there for like 12 years now.
Yeah.
And
what did he do before that?
He worked at a tubing factory. He worked at a metal, like copper and metal tubing factory. Okay. Yeah. And he hated it. He told me some stories about that. Like, he got in trouble for being too industrious. Like, the system was like one of those conveyor belt things. It would bring down one, and you're supposed to put it in a furnace and set it up for a specific timer deal, and it would pop out on the other side. He figured out how to get the right ratio of heat and timing so that he would just grab 5 or 6 at a time, dump them all in, get them done in half the time it would take for each of them individually, and just wait for a little bit and do that again. He was doing like half. He was doing like half of their quota. Like a quarter of his stuff was,
and they didn't like that?
And they got him in trouble because he wasn't doing it individually.
Wow.
And then when he went to their system, they started griping at everybody because like their stuff was down, their numbers were down.
Don't you hate that stuff? That's annoying.
He said that he loved it when he got his thing from Tinker, though. As soon as he heard that he had his solid job thing from Tinker, he said, "Hey guys, here's my 2 weeks notice, and don't count on me coming in for any of those days in the next 2 weeks." Yeah. And they were like, okay, I understand why you're like this. Like, there was one manager who was like a cool guy. Yeah. And he understood. He was like, "Dude, I really get why you would feel like this, but could one day you come in?" He's like, "Nope, not gonna do that. You guys screwed me over too many times, too much consecutively. So I'll take that paycheck and I'll go over to my new job where I'm making more than you."
Get roasted.
Yeah, he said it was a really good feeling when he was able to leave that stuff and go to his current job.
Vince, he was telling me about, you have to get, for IT work, you have to get your CompTIA A+ 901 and 902, and they just changed the standard in July. They changed the standard from the 901, 902 to the 1001, 1002, and it's kind of just an updated version and some different questions and stuff. But it's pretty much the same thing. It's just hardware, software troubleshooting. And he was telling me about how, working in that kind of stuff, it's great to have one and it looks good on a resume, and a lot of people want you to have one for if you're, working on computers, doing any kind of stuff like that. And he had his 901 and he had his CompTIA A+ 9 series for a long time, and he let it expire, and so they made him go back and take the 1001, 1002, and he's like, I wish I hadn't let it expire because it's different and it's difficult, and you have to go back and learn all this stuff over, the tiny little details that they try to get you on, just a minuscule little.
Yeah, that's a lot. It seems like I'm trading one really, really particular industry for another, because that's how it is with aviation. They're in aviation, just to exemplify how little stuff changes. The tests that I took to get my
was it $200 a test for the actual
you have to be more specific, because
for the certificate for your, is it A&P, how much was that?
Okay,
it was $400 or
the way that it's set up is that you have two sides of your A&P, the A side, which is airframe, and P, which is power plant, which essentially that just means if you're converting it over to cars and trucks, it would be body work versus engine work, right? You have to pass a written test for a general aviation knowledge thing, which costs $100. You have to pass a written for both airframe and power plant. They're both $100. And you have to pass 2 oral and practical exams.
Don't tell me those are $100 too.
They're $400.
Oh, wow.
And that's actually cheap.
So
where I got it for $400 was considered cheap. I've seen some places charge the oral and practical as much as over $1,000.
Over $1,000. It's $1,100 for you to take these tests?
Altogether, it cost me $1,100 to get my A&P.
That's significant.
And that's after I did my schooling. If we add in, I got FAFSA to take care of a lot of the schooling stuff, but
that's nice.
But what I had to pay on that was $450. So I ended up paying about $1,600 to get my A&P, and it took 18 months to go through the course.
Oh, yeah, but, that's a good hefty course.
Yeah, it's a decent sized course.
The one I went through just to get my 6 college credit hours and the CompTIA A+, which I ended up not taking. What happened to me was I was going to take it, and we got a grant for our class that would cover 3 people to take the 901 and the 902 together, which they're $200 a piece. And we got a grant that would cover it for 3 people to take their 901 and 902. So I think it was $1,200, and so the 2 of them got grabbed up pretty quick, and it got to the end of the school year, and I finished before a couple people, and so 2 weeks left. He told me, he brought me into his office, and a couple of the teachers, they were like, oh, you're so great and everything, you don't have to come back, you finished everything, you've done everything we need you to do, so if you want to leave today, that's totally cool. And I did, and I was like, okay, I'm going to take this home, I'm going to continue to study on this, and I'm going to go down to the wherever you take it. I forgot what the place is called where you take those kind of tests and stuff, but go over there, take it, and be done with it, and I'll just keep renewing it and keep it updated, so I don't have to ever take it again. I was really studied up for a long time, started working, and did not study another day for it, and never took it, and so that was kind of a big, I really should have, I should have taken it, but still would have cost me $400, and I'm hoping that I'll get a good refresher this year when I go back and maybe take it then. So that it would be really beneficial to have that on my resume.
Yeah.
Just any computer thing you can do is going to get you a computer job easier.
Oh, yeah. Like, it seems like there's the same type of shenanigans that goes on with aviation is the type of shenanigans you see going on with computer technology stuff. Is people claim experience with computers and they have never taken a course, never done anything except like Google stuff, and then say that they're an expert because they were able to use the start menu to look and check their settings.
You know what that reminds me of? And we were talking about Catch Me If You Can earlier. The guy, whatever his name is, like the most impressive part to me of his whole story is that he legitimately passed the bar in 2 weeks. Like he just sat down, studied for 2 weeks, impersonated a lawyer, passed the bar, and literally became a lawyer. And just use stuff that he saw on TV. That's crazy. Like the bar exam, passed it 2 weeks of study. Can I do that, please? He must have been a genius because he had a big genius level IQ.
I mean, like, I don't know if he's still employed by it, but
I think he's retired.
They said that after all the events of that and all, that after he served his prison sentence and all, that they hired him to be like code breaker for all that sort of stuff. He was genius. I mean,
yeah, he was really, really good at everything.
The way that he manipulated stuff, I mean, it's trademark sociopathic stuff. But at the same time, you can't help but be like, dang, that's innovative.
Really impressive.
It's like, I never thought I could be tricked that way.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
And you had the girls flocking to him.
Oh, yeah. I mean, he's a lawyer, a doctor, and he's pilot.
All of the above.
And he's 24? Yay!
When that survey comes through online that says, like, what's your career path? And he just goes through and selects every single one of them.
Yeah.
All of the above.
Yeah. He just couldn't make up his mind, folks. Just gonna try it all, but I don't have 375 years to train for all of it.
It takes so long to go through all that stuff, and he's like, boom, 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 millions.
Well,
and that scene where he gets caught and he's got all those checks all around him and stuff.
Yeah, and I mean, I actually, being in the aviation industry, I know a couple of people who are pilots. One of them is just a very basic private pilot. He's got maybe a couple hundred flight hours under his belt, but it's I don't know if he's instrument rated. You know? Well, it's when you're at that private pilot thing and he isn't like super rich or anything, you rent. You don't ever go out unless you're like the doctor that's rich. And there's actually jokes for aircraft mechanics. They say that these specific airplanes are doctor killer planes. There was this one time a while back that for some reason all these like millionaire doctors went out and got V-tail private planes. They were twin engine planes. They flew like a lead sled, just difficult handling, and they were V-tailed or T-tailed. Okay. And it was actually, and a lot of the specific one that they went for, it was a really bad type of plane anyway. It was called the Tomahawk, and it already had the nickname of Traumahawk because it was the reason that...
I wouldn't get on that plane.
Well, I mean, like, before we realized that you needed to, like, reinforce the T-tail for it, all that the T-tail thing means is
it broke apart and crashed.
Yeah. We weren't putting reinforcement at the base of it. At the back of like the plane, whenever you talk about like the rudder, the diagonal, like the stabilizers that are perpendicular to that are called elevators.
Okay.
And a T-tail design just means that those elevators are at the top of the rudder as opposed to the base.
Okay.
The Tomahawk was called that because they made it a T-tail design, and when they initially released them, they didn't have any reinforcement at the base. The entire back of it would rip off,
Oh,
and
snap.
then you were only
Literally,
able
oh,
to
snap.
yeah, yeah, you were only able to fly using ailerons and flaps. Ailerons are the parts on the ends of your wings that turn and
Yeah.
like mirror each other. Like if the right aileron is going up, then the left one is going down,
Yeah.
so that you roll. But these doctors were buying a bunch of trauma hawks and going out before we had caught the bug, and they had no flight experience whatsoever.
Yeah.
Going out and flying these twin engine faulty airplanes and just dying in droves.
Yeah.
Because
Wow.
they kept crashing and burning in the ground.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, it was horrible.
Mm-hmm.
And I've seen footage of people in like skydiving planes having midair collisions, stuff like that. Planes just getting ripped apart. It's
Wow.
crazy. Like anybody listening, and you too, Caleb, if you get the chance, look up flightaware.com.
Mm-hmm.
It's a live feed map based in the US, because that's where we are, of all the planes in the air right now.
Wow, that's pretty cool.
Every single airplane has to have
All the ones we know about.
Well, all planes that are in the air right now, at least registered US planes,
Yeah.
have to have specific radio equipment in them,
Yeah.
and they're constantly tracked. Because if you look on FlightAware, it's like thousands of planes.
And it just
The
shows like
entirety
the globe
of the
and
map just looks like a whole bunch of wings sticking out over each other.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous. And then you can see like the air speed highways that go from the west coast, like the upper middle part of Los Angeles, straight over to Hawaii. There's like just a steady stream going back and forth of like hundreds of planes. It's crazy.
So they have like an air like route that they follow. Okay, that's kind of cool.
There's like specific levels of airspace, but
there's actually a map for like a cybersecurity thing that we would look at. I don't remember what it's called. It's one of those websites where it's a map that shows like live attacks from like hacking attacks on a live map, and most of them are not from the United States, but they're all directed at the United States, you know. And you can see, like, you can tell where like it's the heated areas where there's like a lot of activity. Those parts are like the HP and Microsoft, and it's like headquarters, and those are like the biggest traffic places. They're either defending themselves, sending out attacks, or just receiving tons and tons of attacks. And it's like you can like see these hot areas, and you're like, that's where this is, and this is why. And it just shows like this map of all these attacks going. And you know, it's not completely live, but it's a delayed a little bit, but it's a live map of just a bunch of attacks, and it's really cool.
Yeah, and I mean, when it comes to like cybersecurity stuff, I mean, we're getting better about understanding technology. Like every day we're developing stuff faster and more efficient all the time, and people are getting better understandings of what's going on. But I mean, you gotta consider the fact that aviation is a young industry. It only really started coming around in like 1907, and that was the biplane. Computers didn't really start coming around until like the late 40s, early 50s.
Yeah,
so it's
and
that
those
much
technically
less
weren't
time.
even, like, I mean, they were computers, but they weren't. They were so very
Massive.
simple. They were leading up to like a computer. Yeah. Eventually, they got to just like a room-sized calculator until they got to like a little bit more and a little bit, and now we have like these handheld computers that are like 20 times more powerful than what sent the rocket to the moon.
yeah.
So,
but I mean, the main thing I was trying to bring up with that, in regards to your whole hacking thing, was like, the show that I recommended on the last podcast, *Halt and Catch Fire*. There's an instance in it where one of the main characters has set up a company, and they're essentially like a social media company, and they set up this whole gigantic chat room deal. And they had set up these quote-unquote private conversation areas, but they had set up the code so weirdly and awkwardly, since they were still working on how to write this stuff, that people accidentally hacked into private conversations on there all the time.
Accidentally.
So like, I mean, we're
kind of like
better.
when you turn your radio over. I actually heard like firemen talking on like a radio.
It's like a CD.
Yeah, like I had just like a walkie-talkie kind of like, but it was like they were walkie-talkies, but they were like nice ones. And
Intercepting a secret Russian message.
Yeah, pretty much. Stranger Things season 3, and we were like messing with it and going through, and I'm nearly positive it was like firemen talking to each other or something.
Yeah, yeah. We're getting better at this stuff.
Yeah.
But we still don't understand our own technology. We're still, I mean, we talk about like how great it is that we've known this stuff and created these things. The only person who really knows too much about the original stuff is the original designer.
The people who made them.
And even them, they're like, we don't know how it interacts with the other stuff. So the internet and cyberspace
there's only a couple people that know a lot of things.
Mind. It's a crazy thing,
yeah.
And
See,
that's why I'm so excited to get into it, is because
that was like something that really surprised me, because as idiotic as it sounds, going into that class, I had never thought of the internet like the way that it actually was. Like you never really stop and think at least I didn't stop and think, what is the internet and like where did it come from and stuff. And that's a lot of the first stuff that you learn, all that kind of like history stuff and all that. And after a couple of days in the class, you learn that the internet is not like a central thing. It's not like owned by anyone, and it's literally like me connecting my computer to your computer is creating connection, and that's part of a web. And then you get someone connecting to yours and someone connecting to theirs, and the web gets bigger, and eventually it's an internet between like people. And literally we are the internet. Like our stuff is part of the internet, and the only way you could ever destroy the internet would be to like either
go through and
destroy every computer, remove all electricity. Computers in themselves that talk to other computers are the internet, and that was something I did not know.
Yeah, the existence of the internet is like the inevitable byproduct of us advancing with our stuff. Like the original computers, the reason they're called computers is because they were made to compute numbers, just to do basic calculations. It was bank stuff.
Yeah.
Like they started off with like a little basic hand tool thing really
got into like the ENIAC.
You go all the way back to the Phoenicians and everything. You get that like
you can take it back as far
abacus.
as you even can, and technically it's all the same kind of stuff that just leads up and leads up and leads up, and in the past like 20 years we've really
once we figured out how to put something more than just a number or a letter into a computer, then is when the cyber world became. That's when it exploded into existence. Like,
and at first
we figured it out, and then we said, let's put our entire life onto this. Let's record everything.
We started figuring out, hey, we can make money on this.
Yeah,
more then than it became anything. A whole different thing.
Yeah, you got people like Google and all them.
Amazon.
Like, Amazon eventually, like Amazon started out as like a college book seller.
Oh yeah.
Like Amazon, it was called Amazon, and it had that little smiley thing between the A and the Z, because it was like Amazon, we have everything from A to Z. And it was Amazon just because it was kind of a clever way to put that into a word. They originally just sold books. It was actually Jeff Bezos's foresight in making their slogan be something as open as saying everything from A to Z, as opposed to all books specifically and everything. I mean, not that the subtitle really mattered much by the time we got to it.
Yeah.
But they ended up expanding their stuff. And because of the fact that they're essentially just a big brokerage site, we were able to just do more and more online shopping, all that stuff. And now we have Jeff Bezos at $150 billion net worth.
Yeah.
With an ex-wife who has more than I will make probably in my entire life
Oh, absolutely.
because of a divorce settlement.
I didn't see really the appeal of Amazon before. You know, I was like, you know, a lot of people are using this thing, and it's like this massive super company and stuff. And I was like, why do people buy Amazon Prime? Like, why do they make so much money off that? And then we got Amazon Prime. You know, if you're a student, if you use an EDU email, yeah, I sang that song to myself. So I got the 6-month free Amazon Prime thing, which actually just ended today. And
yay, last day of work, last day at Amazon Prime. No money, no problems. We got school next week.
Yeah. And which is another cool thing, that they give you like discount cheap book rentals for college and stuff, and then also 50% off of the annual Amazon subscription for as long as you're a student, I guess. But so it's 6 months free, and then 50% off after that, and then also you get like the school benefits, which is really cool. But the 2-day shipping thing, I kind of like, I didn't get. I was like, you know, I can just wait like 4 days, you know, whatever. Why would I pay like $100 a year for 2-day shipping, you know? And then you get it
because I'm impatient.
Yeah, and you start scrolling through, and you start shopping, and you just see things that you want, and you put them in the cart, and you order them, and then they're at your house in 1 to 2 days, and it's like,
wow,
it's it's addicting. $150 million.
Oh yeah,
billion. Sorry,
billion.
Yeah,
sir.
Big chunk boy.
Big chunk boy.
Big chunk boy. Big chunk money.
Yeah, but and I saw this article thing. I'm not really. Please don't quote me on this, because I have no idea whether it's real or not. But I had seen this story. If it's true, I think it's the most hysterical thing on the planet. About Jeff Bezos. He got fired as CEO of Amazon because he got a tattoo on his neck and face of like this unicorn thing. The sound of it sounds very fake.
I think that is fake, because if he had it removed, and if he had that and had it removed, then they did a really good job, because there's no, like, his face is completely clean.
Well, like
as far as I know.
I mean, like I said,
his bald head is even cleaner.
Yeah. Yes.
It's like I can see myself in that.
Yes, absolutely. He has his bald head polished regularly every morning.
Yeah.
It's his morning routine.
No, probably he orders a head polishing, and it shows up in 2 days.
Yes.
$150 billion.
He's like, I can't skip out on the rules just because I own the company. 2 days. That's what we said. We are excellent service, but we are Amazon. Not immediate service.
So
yeah, it just cracked me up when they tried to go to drones, and like everybody started shooting their drones out of the sky.
Really?
Like, no.
I did not know about that.
I mean, if you try to fly a drone over Harlem,
it'll get
you will lose $100+ drone immediately.
Oh, there's $1,000 drones. There's people get those $1,000 drones.
Well, I said $100+ because like an individual person, unless you're like got
those
a lot of expendable stuff
with the cameras on them.
Yeah,
those start in the hundreds. It's crazy.
Yeah, I've actually seen a couple of those. It's like starting price $657.
Yeah.
I'm like, dang, man. For a lot of people, that's
you
like
really
multiple full paychecks.
Yeah,
but
that was more than a full week paycheck for me.
Yeah.
But
full week, kind of flexing right there, but
that's
like that's like 1 week.
As if I could spend all that on a drone.
Yeah, I feel like I know that as I eventually end up making more, as I end up making more, I'll probably end up like losing my concern about such big pay things, like price tags. That's the word I was looking for. Price tags. I'll probably start losing respect for the price tag stuff. But as it stands, I feel like $600 for a single thing that I don't really even
That's
need.
a lot. That's a lot.
That's a pretty decent steep price tag for something.
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't really need this. Like, if it was food, that's something. But even then, $600 on food, that's crazy too.
Hey, Hannah's boyfriend Shane. Hannah is my sister,
Yeah.
and she's dating a awesome guy named Shane, and he spent, I don't remember if it was it was at least $2,000. It might have been more in 1 month on fast food. 1 month.
What the?
I don't.
Oh my gosh,
I
dude.
don't know how you do that, but he did it, and I believe it because he eats like a monster.
Apparently exclusively at McDonald's or something. Because
he was spending like
ridiculous.
$10 on a meal, just regularly, like maybe 3 times. That's crazy.
3 times a day.
Maybe. Yeah.
Oh gosh. $30 a day on takeout. That adds up.
I thought I was. I know I was splurging when I spent a little over $6 on Brahms today.
Oh gosh.
I got a breakfast biscuit and tater tots and a chocolate milkshake, and I was like, this is living the life.
Oh yeah. Oh yep.
Oh
like,
yeah.
I'll generally, and I mean that these price tags, mind you, we're in Oklahoma, so the price of living is pretty low here.
Yeah.
It's not that expensive for stuff, and like $10 for a meal. I mean, I know that in like California, an average meal is like $14 to $15 for just a basic meal for one person. Over here, that $15 price tag would take care of 2 people easily. Yeah. Easily take care of 2 people.
2 good meals for sure.
Oh yeah. And so hearing somebody say, I spend $10 every time I go out, and I go out like 3-4 times in a day, that's kind of ridiculous.
So there's that game we played, $1 Million But that was from Rooster Teeth. Have you heard of Rooster Teeth?
I've heard of Rooster Teeth. I didn't know that that's where that came from.
Yeah, they made
but
this
it doesn't
game,
surprise me
and
at all.
they have like a card game version of it and stuff like that. But the premise is you get, it's like a theoretical game where you get $1 million, and then there's this scenario that is not like, it's not something you would want. It's something that you have to accept. It's like you
get $1 million, caveat, but like you can only walk using your hands. You can't walk on your feet ever again.
For ever again in your life. You can only walk on your hands. First of all, your arms, you would make it, but you know what? Actually, now that I'm thinking about it, the blood going to your head from that, if you ever walked more than like 20 minutes, you would definitely be.
You would get messed up.
You get real messed up.
You would mess yourself up pretty quick doing that.
Or pass out or whatever.
But yeah.
But eventually, maybe your arms would be the size of thighs.
Yeah. Thick boy.
Chunk boy, thick boy. But and eventually you'd learn to run, and then you'd just be a different species.
And I apologize to anybody listening to this who's annoyed by the whole thick with 2 C's meme and all that stuff. We kind of enjoy that. So
we like us some chunk.
Some memes.
All right, so let me think of one. Let's do this. $1 million, but you can't brush your teeth for, let's say you can't brush your teeth for 3 years. And if you start,
oh my gosh, no.
if a tooth falls out, it falls out. If you get a cavity, no teeth brushing, 3 years, but you get $1 million.
I'm sorry, dude. I'm not taking that.
Yeah, I don't think I would.
value my teeth more than that. Like
the ones that are like bodily harm kind of stuff.
3 years of no brushing. That's
man. And you hear
that
people
just
go
sounds
out
gross
on those survival shows, and they're like, I wish so much that I had a toothbrush. That's like the one thing they wish for. I would have had a
they're just like, my teeth are green and covered in moss.
Yeah, you'd have to like scratch the plaque off of your teeth every day.
It's just, gosh, that's horrible.
You'd get a cavity, toothaches. That would suck. But you'd be so rich for like a while till you spent it all, and then you wouldn't be, and then you'd also have no teeth. All right.
Okay. $1 million, but every time you sneeze, it sounds like a gunshot, like a really loud gunshot.
No matter where
and
you
it
are,
happens,
when it is,
and every time you sneeze, it happens 5 times.
Oh dang! So it's like a
every yeah. Every time you sneeze 5 times. This is
like
indefinite.
Automatic fire, or is it like burst fire, or is
It's
it like
you know how like people will sneeze 3 times in a row.
Oh yeah, it's like you sneeze 5 times in a row. So it's like
it's like yeah. So it's like that. Yeah. Indefinitely. But you get $1 million.
Dang, that would be harsh. If you ever sneezed on a plane,
spring would be crazy.
What can you like hold it in? You do that thing where you like choke on your nose trying to hold it in.
If you can stop yourself from sneezing, it's stop like yourself from sneezing. You just put a silencer on a shotgun. But no, like if you can stop yourself from sneezing, you can stop yourself, and it won't sound like a gunshot. But if you sneeze, it's gonna sound like bam.
5 gunshots.
Yeah.
So if you do it on a plane, definitely someone like the marshal might.
The air marshal is going to tase you like crazy.
Yeah.
And you are going to land with like a zip tie handcuff situation going on. But you got $1 million. You might be able to invest and get your own private jet.
You get like a mouth muzzle that's or no, like a nose thing that filters and you never sneeze.
So are you taking it? Are you taking that $1 million?
I can see advantages and like a lot of disadvantage. You know what? I'm taking it. I'm taking this $1 million, and I am putting a filter on my nose, and I'm gonna be a nose filter millionaire.
You're gonna be Bane.
Yeah.
But a millionaire.
So I have $1 million.
Tell me about our expense report this month.
Invest all of it. Become Jeff Bezos.
Yes, become the new Jeff Bezos.
With a small loan of $1 million and gunshot sneezes.
I have not had it easy. You think this spray tan is cheap? No. My toupee and my spray tan is like $600 a pop.
Not even close.
Every time.
Don't worry, Mexico's gonna pay for our wall. I'm not funding it. Don't worry about it.
I think my favorite thing that Donald Trump has done so far, or is trying to do so far, is his thing with the Space Force.
I love it.
I want for us to have an ODST unit, and the Marines are with me. I have actual friends that I know that are Marines or were in the Marines that say that it's like their favorite thing on the planet is Space Force.
That's what I would want to do.
I mean, all the branches are trolling the hell out of it, but they love it.
They're probably like to get that position, to be a Space Force, like to be on the Space Force, you probably have to be very accomplished, like in everything. Like astronauts are, they're
I've seen a couple
highly
of like
schooled and all that.
Yeah, I've seen a couple of like the precursory stuff that they've considered for like what the qualifications would be, and of course, obviously, all of it is like the Air Force. It's very heavy on academics. It's very heavy on that sort of thing, and if you want to be like a high-ranking officer, you essentially have to be a legitimate rocket scientist.
Can you imagine being the leader of
the highest-ranking officer of the Space Force? That's such an awesome
like
title.
The alien leader.
Yes. You
come back down to Earth and you say, "Take me to your leader," and they're like,
They're like, you kind of know him already.
Called the Space Force. We are the Space Force.
I want to be Master Chief. Get actual Master Chief for the enlisted ranks.
If I was up there, that's what I'd be wearing. And I would have the 2,000-pound titanium suit. And when I came back down to Earth, I would come down as a meteor.
Oh my gosh. You would die immediately on impact.
Land in Iron Man landing. Ding.
Okay, that actually brings something to mind. I was thinking about this a little while back. Because, with that movie Ad Astra coming out, it's got like Brad Pitt and he meets his father in space or some junk. It's some kind of time travel business.
I've not heard of this.
It seems like an interesting enough movie.
Is World War Z 2 is coming as well, right?
I did not know about that.
I think
actually.
it is, which I'm kind of excited for.
If it is, I want to see it just because World War Z.
It was good.
The movie. Mm-hmm. It was probably the worst zombie movie when it comes to story content.
Oh,
it
yeah.
really
but
is
the hordes
just
of
kill
zombies.
the zombies.
Yeah, kill the hordes of zombies. That like the coolest scene is when they're climbing that wall. It was Jerusalem, right?
Yeah. They were in like the middle of Israel,
and they're like there's like millions of them climbing on each other until they get over. That was cool. That's the one like kind of movie that did those hordes really well. It was massive hordes, and that's what the World War Z game is based around, is just massive hordes, which I would assume would take quite a bit of CPU power to run that kind of game with just so many things like that going on. But the game is like that. Like there's massive hordes that climb on each other, and you can just pile them up and shoot them.
I feel like there's something. You know the movie Life of Pi?
I've not seen it, but I know about it.
You've not seen?
I heard it was really good, and
it's so good.
I heard it was really good. I'll probably watch it.
So good. They, for a couple of the scenes that they had in Life of Pi, the graphics that they needed, they had to bring in programmers to create new systems to actually set it up.
Yeah.
Like they have a flying fish sequence in it where Pi Patel and the tiger, whose name is Richard Parker, they're fighting, and he's about to get killed. Let's just be honest. Him versus Tiger. He's a scrawny vegetarian Indian dude. He's gonna die. Yeah. But and he's holding this oar, and there's this fish that they catch, and the tiger's trying to paw at him and everything. He goes, "Here, fine, have it." And he throws it at him, and another flying fish comes over and knocks it out of the air before the tiger can catch it. And they look over and they see like thousands of flying fish jumping out, and they end up getting like full meals out of it because both of them get the entire boat.
Have you
just
seen
filled with
those flying fish like in person?
It's crazy. They're weird.
They've got like little wings, and they'll just come out and glide. And we used to, like, when we went on 2 cruises, and on both of them, one of the things that we enjoyed doing in the morning was going out to the front of the front of the ship where it's really windy and you can look out at the front and everything, and we would always see, every time you're out there, you see those flying fish, and they'll jump out of the waves and they'll glide, and some of them, don't make it very far, and some of them just sail until you can't see them, and it's pretty cool. Yeah. Just literally flying fish.
It's the weirdest thing ever.
Yeah.
but I mean, people talk about reality is stranger than fiction. It is so true, so freaking true. But yeah, I was saying like they had to write their own new code, and they reframed that scene so that it would be in widescreen format. So even if you were watching it at home and it was in full screen, all of a sudden when you saw this flying fish sequence, it would have those black bars on the top and kind of widen out the shot.
Okay.
And the fish went past the black bars in it. There were so many of them they had to use this code called Giant, and it set up. There were 2 sequences that had just thousands and thousands of units all working together. Getting back to the whole horde thing we were talking about before. The other one was with meerkats. They also used Giant for that one, but they set it up so that within the program, like each of these meerkats had a family that they would specifically huddle around. So if anybody took the time to meticulously go through and look at the hundreds of thousands of meerkats in this one shot that has them, each of them huddles into specific little units and groups and socializes within a group.
So they put just maximum effort into this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
When people do that sort of thing, those are the kind of things that make stuff good. The little things where people put in the extra effort on something that you might not even notice. One way or another, it makes it better, Yeah. Those are great little things like that.
That's why people talk about, like, finding their passion and everything. Is like, it really is important. Like, whenever somebody is making
That's why
something
they say it's the
and they
little things in
really
life.
don't care, it shows.
Yeah.
So, which is
Yeah,
why
you know, no matter what, if you care about it, you can see it. It's like care is visible.
yeah, absolutely.
So
It's like for a little while I was really big into like homesteading and setting up your own small sustainable farms and stuff.
mm-hmm.
One of the groups that they talked about, they specifically talked to and said they said that like they would much rather work 70 or 80 hours a week on their own deal than 40 hours a week on somebody else's.
Something they don't care about. Yeah.
Because this is their project.
I totally get that.
Not just something to pay the bills.
Yeah, I agree.
And
I would do the same kind of thing where I would so much rather spend a lot of time doing something that I care about and that I'm passionate about rather than, you know, doing something for a shorter amount of time that I really don't care about. And it wasn't until my mom actually suggested, you know, looking at this new career tech when we moved here. And so she sent me over and I shadowed a couple classes and found the computer class, and the one that I saw was the only one, like, I mean, you know, the rest of the school looked fun and everything, and there was even a game design one that I was really interested in, and eventually I chose the networking, troubleshooting and cybersecurity class just because, like, when I was in there, it was the only class that I noticed that was actually, like, they were the only class that was working hard. You know, like they were getting stuff done, they were learning, and they were doing stuff.
They were engaged.
The rest of the classes were, you know, they were messing around, doing whatever. It looks fun, like they were having fun, you know. But that was it.
It was a bunch of students screwing around because they didn't really see it as anything long term. Mm-hmm. Like, and that's like the thing.
They were probably there to get out of high school and get a quick certification and that kind of stuff. But, I mean, you know, that is really a good opportunity of those, is to just go there, get your certification and stuff. And don't get me wrong, like, we had fun, and there was probably, once we got less busy and stuff, there was certain times to where, like, towards the end, like, once a month, we would have a game day on a Friday. And you would, like, you could bring your own stuff, and we would just play games for 3 hours, which I'm super excited about because I'm going back this year, taking 2 classes. So I will be there all day for 3 days a week, and when I'm there on Fridays and we have a game day, then I'm gonna get to just sit there and play like Shadow of the Tomb Raider for 6 hours, which is that sounds super fun.
Very nice.
I haven't got to play a whole lot of games here, and we just finished up playing some VR. We are playing Blades and Sorcery, which definitely, if anyone out there has a VR system on the PC, if it's supported by it, get on Steam and buy Blades and Sorcery. It's $20. It might go on sales some of the time. Steam has a lot of sales and stuff.
Well worth it.
I would have paid $50 for that game. Like it, and I typically don't pay full price for any game really. But there are some games that are completely worth every dollar. And Blades and Sorcery, it is a violent game. It's like a gladiator game. There's dismemberment and stuff, but if you're okay with that, then it's a physics based. You're basically a sorcerer, and you're like a warrior, and you fight these bandits.
Honestly, at least in the extension that we've played, it seems a lot closer to the idea of like you're not so much a sorcerer as you are, at least at the very beginning, before you start getting any more to the mods. You're much more of like a Sith Lord. Like you have lightning hands. That's like the first spell that you have, and for the longest time we were playing it. That's the only one we had.
But my biggest recommendation, if you do get it, get on Nexus and get the Vortex mod manager and download some Blades and Sorcery mods. We downloaded like 20 tonight and played them, and they just released an update to where it makes a lot of the mods compatible. For a while, almost all the mods weren't working, and they have this new update, and just all of them started working at once. Amazing. There's some really good mods out there, and this game's only been out for like a couple short months, and the mods are getting really fun.
Being able to legitimately now call yourself a Sith Lord because you can
we
one of
we
these
modded in
mods,
lightsabers.
one of these mods you can get like Count Dooku's lightsaber that's like curved and everything.
Yeah, it's
and
awesome.
then you have lightning in the other hand.
Yeah,
it's awesome. It's
you can
fantastic.
and by nature the game has telekinesis, basically the Force. So you literally and we modded in Star Wars levels and stuff to where you fight Jedis. Literally Star Wars. And
you can be one of the Jedi Knights or be a Sith Lord if you want.
Awesome.
It's fantastic.
The Anakin, do it. Kill him.
Do it.
Yeah. Kill him. Where he takes the 2 lightsabers and crosses them beheading. You can do that. It's super fun.
Just on that note though, I do have to say like that has to be the most hysterical voice changeover in a character I've ever seen. Because if you look at that scene, like leading up to that line, that single line of dialogue,
he doesn't sound like that.
He sounds like,
and then,
"Oh, thank you for saving me, Anakin. Now kill him. Do it." It's all of a sudden just this croaky lizard man voice.
You want another cigarette, sweetheart?
It's hysterical to me. I mean, I love the series. I love Star Wars, but that little voice thing.
Yeah. And you saw the Game
it
Grumps.
It was hysterical.
I think you said you saw the Game Grumps remake where they parodied that, and they did the whole like
stew it,
beef, stew it, brew it.
Yeah, it's
screw it.
Yeah, it's fantastic, and if anybody out there wanting to get VR stuff, I mean.
Blades and Sorcery, number 1 game to get.
Being perfectly honest, at the beginning I was very, very, very dubious about any kind of VR technology at all. But after playing a little bit of these games,
I didn't quite see the point of it a whole lot, and Ryan kept telling me about it, and I kept looking into it, and eventually I was like, "This looks amazing."
Yeah.
And at that point, I watched Ready Player One, and I was like,
sold,
and I bought one. Oculus Rift S.
People have different
really
reactions
nice,
to things.
Yeah, if you've got the PC to run it, the Oculus Rift S is a really nice medium. You can get the Oculus; it's kind of older. I think it's $300, but I would really recommend getting the upgrade. Get the Oculus Rift S. It's 2019 new. It just released like 2 months ago, I want to say, and so I picked one up, and I have to say I'm really happy with it. It's really fun, and the inside out tracking is really nice. You don't set up any sensors in the room. The sensors are inside out. They're on the headset, and they see your controllers in your hand, and they work really nicely, and it's pretty cool. The resolution and the frame rate could be higher. It's 80 hertz, and the resolution is 2560 by 1440 in both eyes, I believe. Don't quote me on that. That could be wrong.
But as we continue in this growth, just like how the theme has been this whole entire time, and with the last podcast, our technology is only advancing. Mm-hmm. We are just getting better at this stuff, and VR is a very new field. What I'm hoping, I mean, my opinion on it has done almost a complete 180 from what it was when I initially heard about VR. Because initially I was thinking, look, the new 3D. It's going to be here for 3 months, and then it's going to immediately fall out of fashion. Yeah. Now I am on the opposite side of that, hoping that it isn't, because
I get VR,
this gameplay, I understand the draw now.
Mm-hmm. Like you take it off and you immediately want to put it back on and keep playing. You know?
Yeah.
We take turns. There's one of us.
But that way you get a real sweaty headset.
Oh yeah,
and
you
it's
get
not fun.
Yeah, that is one big downside when you're playing Blades and Sorcery. You're fighting people as if you were fighting people, and you take it off and sweat drips off your face.
Yeah, you do work up a sweat. This is a way for all you gamers
breaks
out there to start
Get
losing some pounds
by slaying.
To do some real life motion and get yourself one of those super expensive omnidirectional treadmills.
One thing I did
which
buy,
actually does exist now, which I thought was crazy.
I can't wait for those to become mainstream and affordable. I probably will get one.
Oh yeah.
That is so cool. Oh man. If you could actually, that would be sick.
That's literally the other half of Ready Player One.
Yeah.
It's the initial setup, like when you look at the movie, because I'm sorry to all of you who have read the book. I didn't read the book. I just watched the movie. when you watch it, it's like the first scene is him getting his headset on. He has a couple of gloves that have the hand motion sensors, and then an omnidirectional treadmill, and that's it.
Or does that come in later? I don't remember.
That's like right off the bat. He
Okay.
talks about like, this is the starting gear. This is like the best stuff. Is so that you can do it like this. Eventually, I'll get the full body suit.
Yeah, they wouldn't have to be like that big, honestly.
No.
And you may not even need the like a lot of the ones that are here now. They have like a circular like safety ring around them, I guess, that keeps you in. I don't know, but if we could make just a stationable omnidirectional treadmill, and I don't know, that would be so cool. That would be the most immersive thing. If you got the feedback suit, you probably could live in it until you until your eyesight failed.
However, one thing, and I gotta take this note and this mention straight out of the Honest Trailers YouTube site, talking about Ready Player One, harkening back to our mention of sweat earlier.
Yeah.
If you extend that to a full body suit that's like a rubber silicone suit all over you, you will be a stank boy.
You might drown in your own suit.
You will be a stank boy.
Yeah, the showers are real.
Yeah.
Your
That's
suit
our
would
PSA for everybody out there. All of you in the tech world, remember to shower. I guess that's as good a note as any for us to end on tonight as well.
One more thing before we close. Last thing I want to close out on. As far as VR goes, one quick mention I wanted to talk about, to end on a positive note. Hello Games, the people that made No Man's Sky. You know, No Man's Sky came out, I think, in 2016 and completely flopped.
The ultimate over-promising game.
It completely flopped. Everyone wanted a refund. Everyone hated it. And then, after that, they did something that is completely unusual, and like I now really
Very
respect them. Hello Games made it to where and I don't know if they self-published their game or who published it or what, but they working with these people and stuff, there are no microtransactions in No Man's Sky. There are no DLCs, there are no add-ons, nothing. Every month or so they release a big free content update, and at this point it is 10 times the game that it was when it came out, and in 5 days they are releasing an update that completely supports the game in VR, and that is awesome. Like, how many companies right now in August of 2019 are remaking their games for VR and selling them again? Almost all of them. Like, you can buy Thief Simulator, $20. Thief Simulator VR, $20 also. And, that all that kind of stuff. It's the same thing. But they have turned around so much that now people are going back and buying it or going back and playing it because they bought it. And it's like this really cool thing that I can't wait to get into. And I watch their whole... they just keep releasing massive content updates, and it's completely free to everyone. And that is so cool. Like, they may not be even making that much money off of it anymore, but they are still, like, they're listening to their community and they're doing something genuinely cool.
And that's another thing, like, people tend, when they talk about the online community, to talk about the toxicity of stuff like YouTube comment sections and Facebook stuff where people get into crazy arguments anonymously and all that sort of thing, and talk about the negative aspects of it. I think that this thing with Hello Games is highlighting the positive aspects of the online community.
I hope it's like a rebirth of legitimate game developers.
Yes.
This kind of thing. Because, we, back in our day, it was you bought a game once. That was it. You got the full game and you played it until the next game.
And then came EA Games.
And all that kind of stuff. And everything changed to where you buy a game and then you buy another piece of it. And then you buy another piece of it. And eventually, after you spent $200, you have a full game.
Yeah.
And somehow we all just fall for it.
Yeah.
So with things like Cyberpunk and all that kind of stuff, to where, hopefully it'll just release as a full $60 worth of content and just be really awesome. That was, Witcher 3 had DLCs, not necessary in itself. Base game, I think it came out at $60. Complete, full, enjoyable experience.
Yeah, because and it might specifically be closer with PC gaming stuff. We've gotten further and further and further away from that original mark of selling a whole product. And it really is, like, we joke about EA saying, like, you only buy, like, not even a beta version of the game, you buy an alpha version of the game, and then they sell you beta for another $30, and then you get the rest of the finished
and then you get early
product
access,
stories,
and then you get
for another $25 or $30. So by the time all things are said and done, like you were saying, it really is like $200 for one game.
I've spent,
and it's not even a good game.
on Destiny 2, I've spent $80, I think, and they're fixing to release a $40 DLC or $35 DLC, and you can upgrade it to $60.
One game I really, really, really hope they actually finish out and follow through on, that I started up a little while back, is Anthem. It was such a hyped up game.
But
it was such an awesome theory.
I was looking forward to that game for 2 years.
I played it. I played a little bit of it.
Too,
it's definitely
the gameplay was fun.
The side of a beta type thing.
The customization, really nice, really in depth.
The customization, the gameplay, the environments, they were amazing. They just don't have a story.
They made a couple of big downfalls. The story, flop. And probably their biggest, most crushing thing was that you spent more time in loading screens than you did playing. And that destroyed it. Like, I played the beta on PC, and it looked great. The customization was awesome. The characters were cool. The voice acting, the scenery, it was all good. The story was really lacking, and the the incentive behind it was kind of lacking. And then you just that doesn't really get you excited and intrigued more than the gameplay is like, okay, this is good. This is something that can work, and then you lose intrigue with the rest of it, and then you spend tons of time in loading screens. It's like loading screen, and they're too long. And then they say they worked on that and fixed that, and then all the servers crash and everything goes, and it completely flopped, and now like 5 people are playing it, and that's sad because it was looking forward to it for like 2 years. I was waiting for that, and then I played the beta, and I was like, this could be really good, and then I hope this is just a snippet and it's gonna be awesome and stuff. The environments are amazing. The flying is so cool.
It's some of the most beautiful environments in any game I've ever seen. And
it's in the trash now. If they can pull a Hello Games, that would be sick. But knowing that it's published by EA, I'm not gonna.
It won't pull a Hello Games. It'll pull an EA. They'll say, "Here's the rest of the game for another $50,"
and no one will buy it.
Yeah. Unfortunately. Yeah. However, and that's a bleak note, but we're gonna have to call it quits now.
Yeah.
As it stands, it's close to it's after 3 a.m.
It is 3:25 a.m.
So, and we got some stuff to do. So
yeah, we do. So this has been the CyberBabble Bobcast.
Yes, this is CyberBabble with Zach
and Caleb, and we are out. Bye.
Bye. Hey!